Cool. So yeah, this story is about family and working with family. Okay, because I'm sure you've all either tried to do it or are going to try and do it or will face it at some point. So my mother, she was a nurse and she was a cardiac nurse. So she worked in the big hospitals, with people in intensive care. So they've just had heart attacks or heart surgery, and then they get put in IC into her department, and then she would look after them. So she was kind of a hardcore nurse, grew up in the 70s and 80s, kind of when medicine was really taking off, the surgeries, the medicine, like it was kind of the golden age in a way of medicine. So my mum really admired doctors. She thought they were gods, basically. I'm not so sure anymore, but she still really admires them. And yeah, so she really liked medicine, right? She really was into medicine. And I grew up with that around me. And when I grew up, basically, when I was very young, I noticed something wasn't quite right about the medicine because she had health problems. She was getting overweight. Like it was a very stressful job. And it just didn't make sense to me as a child. Like, isn't a hospital supposed to be where the smartest doctors are, right? Where the best medicine is? A hospital should be a land of health and vitality, right? But when I was seeing in my mom was not health and vitality. And I'm like, why? It doesn't make sense, like you're going to a hospital every day, but yet you're getting miserable and sick. So, my little child brain just knew there was something wasn't quite right. So as I grew up, and then I started going into Chinese medicine and stuff like that, the alternative medicines. So, I started talking to my mum about certain things, like energy or qi and da 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 da. And she was beautiful enough to listen to me to a point, but she never really, got into it. She still was always very strongly supporting the science. Medicine is better. I don't know. She was just unsure. She was like, oh, I don't know. I don't know. She was like that. And so I started to get a bit frustrated with it as well, right? So I'm like learning all this cool stuff at college, like, oh, this is how you treat all these protocols. This is how you treat depression. This is how you treat diabetes. This is how you treat this condition. So I had all these protocols. And then I would go home and then I would talk to a person who's got exactly the same disease that I just learned about, right? She's got diabetes. Oh, okay. So I just do this approach. But again, she's like hesitant. So it was frustrating, right? And around the same time, my sister was seeing psychiatrists and psychologists, and she was on antidepressant medications and all sorts of things. And she wasn't satisfied. She wasn't happy with the treatment she was getting. So we started talking, right? And again, I was like, oh, perfect case, right? Here's my sister. She's got this condition. I just learned about this at school. Perfect. I know exactly what to do. And I must have got her at a good time because she was up for it, right? She was like, okay, let's do it. And I said, okay, 6 sessions, 6 weeks in a row. This is what we're going to do. It's going to be awesome, da, 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 da. And she came for 2 sessions and then didn't show up on the 3rd session. She just didn't show. And I found out that she'd basically hit another low point, went back to the psychiatrists and doctors, changed her medication, and then got her on the meds again, like stronger and, all that sort of treatment. And so she'd kind of given up on my treatment. Right? She'd given up on it. And, I was really angry. I was really frustrated and disappointed. And I think she felt guilty. She felt bad, right, for not being able to follow through. So it really kind of disturbed our relationship for a number of months. It created like an animosity between us, or me towards her anyway. I was like, ugh. But after a couple of months, I realized like, hey, I just got to let that go, let it go, let it go. So I let it go, and then our relationship got better again. And I didn't try to force anything on her anymore. And it was the better thing to do. And then my mother, a few years later, I went traveling overseas. and I was away for many years. And then I found, when I'm talking to her on the phone, I find out there's a PhD research program at the local university, and they're looking for women of this age with diabetes to do Tai Chi. And they're going to study Tai Chi on the effectiveness of diabetes in a scientific setting, right, with a PhD and all that sort of stuff. And she joined it. She was open enough, but still needed that science. She joined the program. She got benefits. She started being more open-minded about stuff, and she got a lot out of it. And what I learned from all that was, particularly the moral of this story, all this is, family is really hard. Family is really hard. And in most cases, I say, don't even do it. Don't go there, because there's too much bias, right? You've got too much invested emotionally in trying to help your family, that bias or that intensity is probably going to get in the way of the treatment itself. And also, if it doesn't work or if they don't show up, like it could create anger and animosity and resentment, which doesn't need to be there, which is harmful. So, and the other thing is, it's better to let them be, give them space, and just do your thing, right? Be a good person, help other people. And like with my mom, she came around. I didn't have to push her, but she came around her own way into the space. But if I pressured her, she wouldn't have done that. And so if you're just a good person, or if you're happy with your life and you're like healthy, your relatives, your friends will see that in you, and the ones that are tuned in will follow up on that. Only help them when they ask for help, or only guide them when they ask for it. Don't go in there saying, I know how to fix you, I know what's wrong with you. It's the worst approach, and it doesn't help, right? So that's the insight into families. It's a difficult space, and I know that we all have that wanting to help our parents or wanting to help people that are suffering around us, but it's tricky, and it's better just to give them space and don't put pressure on them at all. It's much better. Yeah, so that's my family story, and today it'll tie into today's topic, which is working with other people, right? And what type of people do you want to work with, right, is kind of the thing. How to approach them, how to deal with them, stuff like that. So again, I made a bunch of slides to keep me on track, and I'm trying to keep my time management skills, because it's very easy to go on tangents. So I'm going to do the same kind of process, excuse me, where I'll fly through the information at the beginning, and then I'll open it up more to questions and interaction at the end. I don't like being the only talker. Like in the live space, we can interact a lot more. But it's kind of internet stuff. So if I can just blast through this info, then we can have that chat and open up. Yeah. Cool. So is that okay with everybody? Everybody ready to roll? Cool. And you can play with your settings. Like if there's too much activity with the, boxes flying around on your screen, you can change your viewing to speaker view or whatever. Gallery view. Okay, so I will jump into share screen mode. There we go. Okay. Okay, cool. What's up? Let's make sure you guys are there. I'm talking to myself in a room, and so okay. So this is call number 3, working with others. The first part is fundamentals. Just some basic things to be aware of. 5 are the most common techniques that you'll use most of the time, right? This is really good to know. You don't have to learn lots, and you don't have to learn 100 techniques. You can just get away with 5 quite easily. Boundaries, this is a really important subject, right? And there's a lot of weird information around this stuff, I think. You know how, there's professional boundaries and then there's energetic boundaries. So I'll talk about that. It's really important to, to wrap your head around some of this. Number 5, how to find people to work with. So you guys should be at the point, or you may be already there, is that you to start working with other people, right? Working amongst yourself with students, and also just working with random people or friends, and how to talk to them, how to approach that conversation, and then Q&A at the end, right? Okay, cool, it's working. So some fundamentals, right? So these are pretty obvious, but it's good just to know. So a safe, quiet space, right? Now, online is a big thing, right? And I would actually recommend you have an online offering. It's not ideal, okay? Obviously, it's not ideal to have just online, like you're talking to someone through a computer, but the world is used to it now. COVID has kind of pushed everyone online, so it's not such a big leap for a lot of people. And the other thing about doing online work is that you've got the whole world is your market. The whole world, you can help people. If you live in a small town or whatever, you're very limited, right? So we don't have that block anymore. So a safe, quiet space. Also, like there's little dynamics you can learn, but don't put the clients back to the door. So if you're in an office, don't have them with the back to the door to their back, because it creates a kind of unsafe space subconsciously. So make sure they can see the door, as an example. Right? Another cool little trick is to have a candle in the room, and even when you're online in the office, because there's something about the candle that it radiates like a balanced frequency, and so that it helps tame or balance your frequency out as well. Something about it, something mystical about it. I'm not quite sure how it works, but it's really nice. It keeps things stable. So no distractions, obviously. Put the phones away, turn them off, get them out of sight. So number 3 is good. Practice more than your clients have. Obviously with some EFT, right? You blast through ahead of them with personal peace procedure. But the thing is, you don't have to wait till you're perfect. You don't have to wait till you're a Buddha before you start helping people. Sometimes, some students are like, oh, but I feel like a fraud because I'm still got pain. I still got digestive problems and I'm treating people for pain and digestive problems. Right? That's okay. It's okay. If you wait for yourself to be a Buddha, it's gonna take forever. So it's almost like you just want to be what I call like 2 steps ahead. Even being too advanced is a disadvantage. Like you don't want to be a Buddha, because if you're a full Buddha stage and then someone comes in full of anxiety, there's just such a huge difference that it's almost unrelatable. But if you're just 2 steps ahead, it's relatable. It's like, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I had that. So if you're 2 steps ahead, it's fine. You don't have to be cured. Okay. Number 4, get yourself stable as best as you can before sessions, right? So if you're not perfectly stable, it's okay. Just do your best. And what does that mean? Try and get your breathing stable, coherence, learn about coherence. Like just before this call, I was up on my roof doing weights, right? Because weights is kind of, it feels like it sort of calms my system after a while, like I blow off a lot of sort of nervous energy, and it creates kind of more stability that I could calm and feel more stable. So whatever works for you, right? Before sessions is a good idea. And then number 5, trust, authority, competence, and compassion. These are just qualities that you develop over time. Trust is a big one, obviously. Trust takes time. So with that, don't go into the first session thinking and thinking that you're going to help all their problems or cure them in one session, because it's just not going to happen, right? You've got to build the trust relationship for things to happen. Even if you're like a super healer or whatever, if they don't trust you, the effectiveness won't really work. There's a lot of studies actually between doctors and patients. If you trust your doctor, the treatment works better. Even if you don't trust your doctor, but let's say this doctor's super like the smartest person on the planet, but you don't trust them, the treatment doesn't work as well. So trust actually supports the treatment process. It takes time. Okay, so some skills to develop. Be a good listener. Now, this is actually a skill. I didn't really realize this. But most people are quite bad listeners. And one way you can test yourself is you get someone to talk about, we did this exercise, like just get a random person or find a friend or whatever and get them to talk for like 5 minutes about who they are, what they do, and what they're into, right? And then after that 5 minutes, you talk back what you heard. Now, we did this exercise, but the person, we didn't know that we're going to talk back what they said. So the people weren't, they were just listening, but they didn't know they're going to get tested. And during this exercise, it was amazing. Like 80% of the people spoke back, because after they were told, then they were told they had to speak it back. Like it was just a mess, right? People didn't understand what they were. It was just really weird. So you've got to listen to the words they use, stuff like that. Right? Okay, note taking as part of that. I'm okay with note taking. I could always be better. But note taking, really, like the key words they use. What is the key statements they'll use? Like sometimes I'll slip in like, oh, really, I wish I could do it. It always feels like I can't do it. Something like that. That's big. I feel like I can't do it. I write that down. And then I tap it in, even though I feel like I can't do it. And I always suck and I can't, da, 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 da. Time management is a big one as well. Again, we talked a little bit about this, but try not to go over time. And so, yeah, you've got to be kind of snappy with it. Yeah, it takes skill. And then last point, this is a good one, which I'll mention again, be non-attached to the outcome. This is super important. Like what I was saying with the family stuff, you're too attached to the outcome when you're working with your family. That's the problem. That's why it doesn't work. Because you're going in trying to fix it. And that energy doesn't seem to help. So when you're non-attached, things work out better. And it becomes more like a play. You're like, I wonder if this is going to work. Or like, let's see, do you want to do a tap and see what happens? That's a really good way of phrasing it. Hey, do you want to do a tap and see if we can move that? And they're like, yeah, why not? I'm like, okay, cool. So I don't know if it's going to work. Right? I don't know. And when you go in with curiosity, it's much more, it tends to work better and it's much more fun for everyone. So I think it's in the next slide. I'll mention it, but there's a 10% rule. 10% of the population, it just doesn't work on. It doesn't matter what the medicine is, whether it's physiotherapy, whether it's surgery, whether it's EFT. For some reason, unknown, is that 10% of the population, the treatment just won't work. So you just don't know. You don't know. So that's why you got to go curious with people. Like, I wonder, do you want to see if it will work? Yeah, okay, let's do it. Okay, so this is another important point is what people think. So people come and they have all these theories about what they think's wrong with them or what the issue is. most of the time it's not the problem, because it's the conscious mind they're talking about from, right? The conscious mind has got all these theories picked up, but if the problem's in the subconscious mind, then the conscious mind doesn't know what it is. So everyone's usually talking from the conscious mind, and so most of the time it's not accurate. And it's much more accurate just to look for stress patterns in people. And again, that's the job. Just look for stress, not diagnoses, not theories, none of that. Just where is stress? Where is stress? Okay, that's all it is. Theories are helpful, but theories tend to get in the way more than they help. And in the Chinese med stuff, we were taught, when someone comes in, we listen. We don't really listen to what they say so much, but we listen to how they say it. Like, is their voice loud, coarse, soft? The way they're saying it is more valuable information than what they're saying. Right? The same with their eye movements. Where are their eyes going? How are they sitting in the chair? What do they smell like? That's another thing they ask. So you're looking at all these things. Behavior is a more accurate indicator than words, generally. Okay, so the most common techniques that you'll come across, or that you need, that you'll use, tell the story technique, which is what we went over, I think, last time. It's most of the work is that. Most of the work is tell the story. Okay, can you go through it and tell me from the beginning what happened? And then you break it up into parts and tap the stress out of it. Chasing the pain. So if I do tell the story first, and then I'll go, how's your body feeling? Now I feel like tension in my stomach. Okay, then I focus on the stomach for a while just to break it up. Tap on the stomach pain. And then I might jump back to tell the story. So sometimes I sort of jump from tell the story, because tell the story could be more conceptual stuff. Chasing the pain is more physical stuff. So I kind of break it up a little bit by doing that. Because I've noticed if you just hammer in on one thing, it can kind of overload the person, and it's hard to gauge perspective if you've just been hammering on one subject for like 40 and 50 minutes. It's kind of like, I don't know what I'm talking about. Like, I don't know how I feel anymore about it. What are we talking about again? That's kind of where it ends up. So break it up and then come back. Going into the fear of it, this is a great one. What are you afraid of? Like, what's the worst case scenario? I lose my job, I lose more money. Okay, let's practice that. Imagine losing your job, being poor, being miserable, and let's tap on that. That's it. There's the rapid fire. So this is updated I noticed in the manual, it's a little bit different. So this is slightly updated, but very similar. But this is that idea of using rapid fire on anger or any big pile of emotion that this person has. If they struggle with anger, do rapid fire anger. What else makes you angry? What else makes you angry? What else? And what else makes you angry? Just keep slamming it like that. And then creating a new you. We haven't really spoken about this, but it's in the manual, and I've got a video in the training space. But this is putting in at the end, near the end, you've got to put in a good image of them being okay. So if their worst fear was losing their job and losing all their money and getting poor, you go through that. And then at the end, I would go, okay, now imagine yourself, totally at ease, relaxed. I would even play with, having no money and being happy, and then having lots of money and being happy. Like, you can play with that, because you're trying to put in that image that they'll be happy even if they lose their money, something like that. all images in the mind are changeable. So whatever images that you carry in your mind, you can change them. It's based on the neuroplasticity of the brain and everything like that. So it's, we have a tendency to think that the past is the past, or this is what happened, and this is my memory, and this is how it went down. No, it's completely changeable. And they're even saying, like scientists and stuff are coming out now saying that 50% of your memories are false. They've been filled in by your brain in different ways. And every time you go back into a memory, you're changing it, you're adjusting it slightly. And so if you've gone over a memory like over 10 years, it's probably completely different than when it started, your memory, right? So memories are unreliable as far as factual information. And sometimes I remind clients of that. Like if they're really hung up on something in the past, it's like you can change, you know, it's not absolute. It's unreliable as a reference point. So don't take it too seriously, I suppose that's what that means. It's like, yeah, it might not have happened. Like some of it might not have happened. So, yeah. Okay, so red flags. So red flags are just like warning signs, right? So when you get a red flag, basically the protocol is refer them to a doctor, or at least ask them if they've got a psychologist or a psychiatrist that they've already got working with them, right? I don't, if I get a red flag on someone and then they don't have a psychiatrist or a psychologist on their team, I say do that first. I'm like, no, you need to go and see a doctor first. Once that's done, then contact me again, and then we can move from there. Okay. So really important. Yeah, don't be the last line of defense. And the common flags are suicidal thoughts, suicidal thinking, heart problems, you know, it's pretty obvious. That's a medical doctor thing. Sharp physical pains, breathing problems. And this one's a big one. History of mental illness, you know, schizophrenia, psychosis, stuff like that. Personally, I find it difficult to work with people with a strong mental illness as such, but I'm open to it. But I definitely ask if they've got a psychologist, psychiatrist, and all that sort of stuff, because it's very complicated. And yeah, it's very complicated. So yeah, if in doubt, just send it to the doctor first. Go see a doctor first. I once had a person wanting to work with me. She had hip pain, you know, in the bones and stuff, maybe osteoporosis, stuff like that. And I asked her, have you seen the doctor yet? Like, have you got x-rays and stuff, like before going into EFT and stuff? And she's like, oh no, I haven't seen a doctor for like 5 years. And I'm like, oh, well, you need to do that first. You need to just go through that process, just to make sure that's all clear, and then we do EFT. Okay, so this is when you're actually working with people. This is for like workshops and stuff as well. Generally, just go for a quick win in the first 5-10 minutes. So we spoke about this last time. So, you know, just go, okay, you know, if they've never done EFT before, especially if they haven't done EFT before, it's like, okay, do you want to try something? They're like, okay, yeah, sure. Okay, well, have you got any pain in your body at the moment? In your neck? Like, yeah. And then you take them through it and just do a quick tap. 5 minutes max. And then usually there's a drop, there's a change. And then from that point, you can move forward. Okay. Yeah. Again, be curious, not attached. So go at it more fun. I had a client once who was doing, this is quite common actually. You're doing the EFT, okay, so you're in pain. you're in anxiety, and you're doing the EFT to get rid of the pain, right? So they go into it, all this pain, I really want to get rid of it. So they're going into it in a very intense way to try and get rid of it. And it's that bias, that intensity, that emotional intensity, which will often block the results because they're not accepting, they're sort of bypassing the acceptance of the state. They're like, I don't like it, I'll get rid of it. And then they get really annoyed when it doesn't go. And I say, well, it's because you're, and I said, instead of going at it like that, just try and be curious. Just go, okay, I wonder if this will work. Let me see if this tapping will help me with my headache. Let me see. And then do it. It's a different approach. I know it tends to work better. And there's the 10% rule. Sometimes it just doesn't work. And that's okay. And obviously, don't work with those people. Send them to a treatment or a therapy that works. Right? Okay, end on a good image or feeling. That's what I mentioned before. Like, 70, 80% of the process is pretty tough. Like fear, pain, anxiety, worst case scenarios. So when you drag someone through that, spend some time at the end putting in some nice imagery. Okay, so this is just a quick rundown of the client process. So once you've got them, once they're like, okay, let's do it. You've got an hour and 15 minutes to work with someone. In the first session in particular, the first 10 minutes is like, you want to identify goals. Like if they've got pain in the neck or bad digestion, like, okay, what's the best case scenario, right? Like, what does that look like? And say, oh, my body, I don't have this. It feels good. I would be more active. I would go out more. I would travel. I would get on a plane. Like, those are really good things. You've got to try and get an image of what they're looking for. Because again, you're going to tap that in at the end with creating a new you. So you're putting those pictures in. Oh, look, your body feels good and you're getting on a plane and you're like, you've got to work out what it is that they've got, what their goal is. Again, then you start looking for the stress. Start tapping. You just follow the process, follow what comes up. Make sure you check the progress. Make sure that they checking the process because they have to do the assessment on themselves. And on a good image, give them a little bit of homework. So just one or two things. Don't give them too much because they won't do it. But if you give them one or two bite-sized pieces, they're likely to do it. And then end session. Okay, cool. This is maybe I'll just break it up because I'm talking. So anything that we've covered so far before I get into the boundary space, does anyone have any questions or want to explore what we've kind of gone through already? And if you do, just unmute yourself. Yeah.
Hey everyone. With the homework, what kind of things do you set? Do you get them to tap things out themselves, or?
So it's more like simple little tips, like try going to bed earlier, or
Okay, yeah.
Like try eating this food, or take this, check out magnesium, it might help you, something like that. So not so much EFT specific, but more like lifestyle suggestion.
Okay. Yeah. Cool, thanks.
Cool. Anyone else? Any other questions so far? Okie dokie. Okay, so I'll go back. So this is boundaries. This is a great subject. So the first one I want to touch is professional boundaries. So one of the really good questions to ask yourself is, who do you want to work with? What type of people do you want to work with? Males, females. That's probably a good place to start, right? Age group. What are their problems? Are you, do you want to work with depression? Do you want to work with diabetes? Do you want to work with this or that? Now, this is going to help a lot. And you may not know this yet, which is fair enough. And that's kind of why you need to, if you're new to the healing space and you haven't got that many case studies under your belt, it is probably better just to remain open and just work with anyone that comes along. Because then you will start getting different perspectives. Like you'll start going, oh, that working with that type of person wasn't actually that fun. Working with this person was kind of cool. You don't know yet. You don't maybe, so it's good to experiment with different kinds of, lots of different types of people if you can. But then after a while, especially if you want to go into charging for it, you want to narrow it down to specific types of people. Because you don't want to work with difficult people. It's almost like you need a list of what types of people don't I want to work with as well, right? So, for example, I don't want to work with people that are late all the time and never show up. I don't want to work for people that don't pay me for my time. I don't want to work for people that don't do the homework. I don't want to work with people that don't take it seriously. It's pretty obvious once you get down into it, right? So I want to work with people that show up, are committed, pay on time, are kind of fun to work with, right? They're kind of open-minded already. That's kind of cool. Like if you're working with people like that, that's great. And you will get a sense of that in your first meeting with them, or the first contact or the first call. And we'll talk about this more next call, like the sales process. But you're trying to filter people out, filter them out straight away. So in the first contact, you want to work out, is this a person I want to work with or would like to work with? Or is this person not? Is this person too difficult, right? So you've got to get that clear, because you don't want to be treating anyone that comes along. It's too much, it's too hard. One client can just one or two bad clients can completely destroy your energy, not pay you. It's not worth it. So set up a booking system that makes it easy for people to contact you or to talk to you, right? So what I recommend is having an online automated booking system. I use Calendly at the moment. Calendly, yeah. There's lots out there, but it's worth it. And I pay $10 a month for it to get the features. And it's worth it, right? Think about the time. Like recently, I tried to contact a massage therapist in my town, right? He's a specialist in the abdominal massage. And I'm like, yeah, I really want to do this. So I found his contact. I had to WhatsApp him. So I found him in WhatsApp. I said, hello, da, 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 da. And then I had to milk information out of him. I'm like, okay, when are you available? And he was like, what day do you want? And I'm like, oh, Tuesday, 4 o'clock. Oh, no, I'm busy Tuesday, 4 o'clock. What about after 8? I'm like, oh, God. See, he's making me work to book in with him, right? He's making me work. And it annoys me a lot because there's so many reasons that I like it. But basically, you got to assume that everyone's busy, right? Everyone is busy. Don't waste their time and they won't waste yours. So if he messaged me, oh, hey, welcome. Click here to see all my booking times and book in. And I click a button, I see a time, I click it, it's in, and then it shows me the location, contact, what I need to bring with me, how long it's going to take, how do I pay? Like it's all in one spot and it's all automated. Instead of going, how much does it? I literally had to say, how much is it? Where are you? Like I had to type all that stuff in and I hate doing that. So don't do that. Please don't do that. If someone contacts you, just go, hey, welcome. These are my times. Check it, click here, choose your time. Make it easy. And, in Calendly and all these booking systems, you can put a form in there. So they're already filling in the form. So they're booking in a time. Now they're giving you their medical history. They're giving you their goals and dreams and their problems. There's also payment systems, but that's another thing. And then they're getting locations, like everything is done. And then so now on my end, I get a booking, I got all their information, I know what's wrong with them, I know what to expect. It just saves everyone time. So just do that, please. And so another thing, if people do sign up with me in the full program, I send them a contract, also known as an agreement form. Agreement is a bit softer language than contract, right? So you sometimes use agreement. And the agreement outlines what's involved, like at this time, this is how long it goes for, like all the stuff. And I think you've got a sample of that. I've put that in the student area. And there's also a clause in there that says not to replace advice from your medical doctor. Right? This is not medicine. So once you've done all that, it's super professional, right? And most people show up on time. They take you seriously. Just set up those systems. It's so easy to do. And people will show up and take you seriously if you do it. So that sets up boundaries straight away. And the next one is the energetic boundaries. So over the years, there's so many different theories out there, but I have subscribed personally to the belief that I have the ultimate authority over myself. The way that I feel is up to me. In the end, the way I react and respond is up to me. So if that's true, then I can't blame another person for doing something. I can't blame someone else for doing something to me or making me feel a certain way. That's on me. That's my responsibility. Something may have happened subconsciously or energetically, which I may not be aware of. But in the end, it's my call. It's me who's dealing with it. It's me who has to deal with it. So that's kind of where I come from. And I find it really, really helpful because I'm not blaming anyone and I'm not running away from anyone. I'll put myself, I'll try and deal with anyone that comes that I have to deal with. I'm not going to run away and say they've got bad energy. I think that's nonsense, to be honest. I think it's nonsense. And what follows on from that is no one can have an effect on you unless on some level you've allowed it to have an effect on you. Again, mostly subconsciously, is that maybe they triggered something in you, they remind you of something. But again, it's on you. The way that you're feeling about them is on you. It's not them. So you don't have to subscribe to this one, but I find it personally, it really helps. And what's going to help with that is through EFT and these practices, right? The healing process is that you want to empty yourself of triggers. You want to empty yourself of the attachments and the bias and the memories and stuff like that, because that'll help you maintain that space when you're dealing with anyone. There's another great, I think it's Dr. Hawkins, is like, if you honestly look at yourself and own your own fallible nature, like if you can admit to yourself that, hey, sometimes I'm stupid, sometimes I'm arrogant, sometimes I'm, if you own these bad qualities in you, no one can attack you. Like someone comes along and goes, you're such an arrogant asshole. It's like, yeah, I'm sorry about that. Right? I know I'm a bit of an idiot. It disarms you and it disarms someone offending you. You can't be offended when you own your own fallible nature, honestly. Yeah. So these are all little tricks so that people don't shake you. And the things like Qigong and the yoga and the breathing are all tools to help get you stronger in that energy field. So once you're pulling out all these triggers, stabilize yourself and get yourself strong so you can maintain your energy field. That's what Qigong really is good for, and the yoga and stuff. Maintain it. And there's things like coherence, which is the more the scientific stuff of like, the magic number I think is 5-5. So breathing in for 5, and breathing out for 5-5. It stabilizes the brain and the heart rate together, creates coherence. And once you've got your brain and your heart working together, you're stable. You've got a very stable energy field. And that's the thing, a stable energy field next to a stressed energy field. The stressed energy field is weaker by nature or more unstable. It's unsustainable. Whereas the stable energy field is stronger by nature. So the stressed energy field will eventually match the stronger energy field, which is the balanced one, right? And so again, if you're in a balanced energy field, no one can shake you because you're in coherence. Right? And the only reason you're shaking is because you fell out of coherence somehow, again. So yeah, these are all good things to be aware of and trying to work out what works for you. And yeah. And at the end of the day, this is a good practice. Just at the end of the day, just try and practice letting go of any remaining contraction, agitation that you may have picked up through the day. So, you know, if you're still thinking about something that happened earlier, you're still kind of wound up, you haven't let it go. So just take a moment in most evenings just to let go of any angst and go to bed in a released way so you're not compounding stress. And that's it. That's really like my quick way of establishing boundaries and keeping yourself sustained. Sustainability is a big part of this. A lot of healers burn. They get excited. They go in, they try and help everybody. They lose, they get stressed out, lose a bunch of money, burn, and then become super bitter about society, super bitter about the world. Don't become bitter, don't burn. So, yeah. Has anyone got any questions on that? I know it's a big subject, so I just wanted to open that one up. Yeah, if you just unmute yourself, Sensi, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I would like to see the agreement that you have for your clients.
Sure.
Just to check that. And yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
sure.
if you can send it or share with us, that'll be amazing.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I'll post it up inside the Facebook space again. And I'll send it to you again,
Okay.
Sensi, as well.
Okay, super. Thank you so much.
Okay, so how to find people to work on. So again, avoid family. It's probably a good place to start. It's too hard. My internet's gone a little bit. Oh, you're still there. So yeah, I said, so avoid family as a general principle because it's too volatile. Right. But of course, hey, you know, you may be one of the lucky people that family members are really open-minded and all that sort of stuff. So I'm not saying always, maybe your family is different, but in most cases, family is difficult. So you can use the Facebook EFT student forum if you want to find other students to work with. A great advantage with working with other students is that they know what to expect. And so you can actually get quite far, quite fast. But definitely mix that with people that have no idea what EFT is, because you need to learn how to deal with people that don't know it as well. Again, what kind of people do you want to work with? This is something to keep contemplating and working over. Males, females. You know, like I was at one point, I was like, oh, I was really interested in depression, you know, like studying it. And I was like, I really want to work with people with depression. But then after a while, I was like, oh, I don't think I do, because, you know, my clients, every day I'm dealing with these terrible stories and like very, very depressed and unmotivated people. And I'm like, personally, like, even though I want to help them, I don't think I do. Like, I don't think that's my business model. It's too hard. And yeah, they're unlikely to show up. They're unlikely. They're just complaining, and then they don't do the work. And you're like, I don't want to work with that type of person. So, you know, it's tricky. Yeah. So on social media, a good little post you can put up is like, I need your help, as a start. That usually people love helping other people, right? So that usually has that, people read the next thing. I need your help. I'm looking for people like this. So this is the next point. Don't talk about yourself. A lot of problems with healers and stuff, and a lot of in this space, and the industry is really kind of broken about this, is that everyone's talking about themselves, about how awesome they are and how they've studied this and that, and how they can speak to aliens and 12th dimensions and channel all these entities and help you solve your life problems. Like, no one really, like, only 1% of the population is going to listen to that, right? Most people are just not going to care. Most people tune out. Because it's so like almost narcissistic when you're listening to someone babble on about how awesome they are and what they've done. It's kind of narcissistic, right? It's like, oh, that's great, but how does it help me? And that's the other thing you've got to really get through. It took me a while to get this, honestly. People, the first priority of people is themselves and their problems. That's the main thing they're thinking about, is their problems. They only, like, they care about themselves first and foremost. You kind of come down the line. But if you went at it like, I need your help, I'm looking for people suffering from depression, loneliness, and are feeling lost in their life, boom, you're going to get so many people responding, right? Because that's what they're thinking. I'm depressed, I'm lonely. That's constantly going through their mind. And when they see that someone's saying stuff like that, they're interested. But if they say, you know, I'm a channeler, I don't care. So that's just when you're typing, when you're posting, when you're talking, trying to attract people, always focus on clients' problems. Then once they're interested, yeah, I'm interested. Can you send me more information? Then, okay, you can get them into that booking system, get them on a call. And then it's that whole process of like, would you like to try something? Or, you know, just put that in there somewhere, because asking permission is really important. People feel like they're in control when you ask for their permission to do stuff. So, you know, it's really empowering for them, even though you're leading the whole process. It's like, is that all right with you guys if I do this? Is it all right if we focus on that? Is it all right if we start tapping on that? Is it all right if we slow down a little bit? Like, just try, like I'm practicing it more and more. It's really powerful. Ask permission. And then again, be curious, not attached. So it may not work on this person. So you've got to experiment with it to see what happens. And I think this is the last little bit. Yeah. So this is the last little bit. Again, always be client focused. I think the correct terminology now is client centric instead of self-centric, right? So what are their problems? Do they have headaches? Do they have insomnia? Do they have difficulty making friends? Like that's how you lead when you make a post or anything like that. Okay. It's not about you. That comes later. And if you post like that, you get so much more activity. Yeah. And like I see flyers like all around like hippie towns and stuff. It's like energy healing or nonviolent communication or DNA resetting or even like psychedelic, you know, like Cambo medicine where you take a frog psychedelics. But think about the process. Like if I see something like that, I then have to contact them to go, what does that do? So you're making me work to work out what it means. Okay, you do energy healing. What does that mean for me? Like, does that help with headaches? And then you've got to come back to me and go, yeah, it helps with headaches. See, it takes too long for them to work out how it can help them. So don't make people work to understand what you do. Start with what you solve. It's much better, right? Like heal your childhood trauma in 3 months, or be free of back pain. Like, people are much more interested in it that way. So this is definitely more businessy sort of stuff, but I just wanted to bring it in. Next week, we'll talk more about this. Yeah. So that's basically it for all that. And I managed to blast through it. So we've got plenty of time for questions, which is awesome. I'm going to stop the share, open it up, close that. So I know I went through lots of information. So now's the time to kind of, do you guys have any questions from today or even the previous weeks? Are you having any troubles or anything like that? Then now's a good time. Just unmute yourself. Yeah, Jared.
Yeah, I just have a comment about like boundaries. And I guess something that I've discovered from my own suffering and journey and spiritual awakening and the whole thing of life is that like everyone's on their own journey. And so if they're experiencing suffering and maybe after a session they're still suffering, like I don't need to be the like gatekeeper of that. Like I don't need to be in charge of that. And it's like I kind of look at it with, and this might sound weird, but from my own journey, I look at it with like a little bit of humor. I'm like, they'll be fine. Like they're on their own journey. Like they're gonna be okay. Like, you know, they're gonna figure it out. They're on their path. And I can just smile at it and become disconnected. And of course I'm still compassionate. But it's not like, you know, I'm here to save them or anything. Like, you know, no one can save you but yourself in a way. So that's just kind of the mentality I've had to keep me kind of disconnected but still compassionate as you deal with people and their discomforts, you know.
Yeah, that's a great point. And yeah, it's important to contemplate that, like how to, because sometimes you leave people or the session runs out of time, and there's still there's still a lot of pain. There's still a lot of pain there. So how do you go about your day? How do you unplug in a healthy way, right? But still being a support network somehow for these people. yeah, it's tricky. But yeah, like you said, you can't take it too personally, because then it entangles you. And it's almost like if you hold an image in your mind of them suffering and worried about them, maybe on some level, you're not holding an image of them being, whole, being healthy, being happy. So what is the imaging you're holding in your mind about that person, even if you're not in contact with them? Because I feel like they know, everyone is picking up images all the time from people, right? Whenever we think of someone, we are sending them a message from an image in our minds. And what kind of images are we sending out to people? And if we are worried about them, which is kind of compassion, which is a good energy, but worry is not compassion. Worry, worry might be sending out an image that they're suffering and da-da-da-da. So yeah, so sometimes people say to me is like, oh, you seem to see the good in me all the time, or something like that. Like you don't see me as broken or something. I'm like, yeah, it's like, there's no problem. Like, I don't say that, but it's like, I didn't realize that, but maybe I am doing that. It's like, I'm not fixating on the problem or on the suffering so much, or the imagery of suffering. I'm sort of, saying bad jokes and like creating images like that. I don't know. But I'm interested to hear what Chrissy has to say.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Jared.
That's awesome though. When I said humor, that it was more like love, like more like lightheartedness,
Yeah.
like seeing them as their best selves, like their soul selves, and and kind of smiling at that, I guess. So that's what I meant with humor. Yeah, but you described it beautifully, so thank you.
Yeah. I'd love to hear, Chrissy, if you've got anything to say about it. Like, how do you sort of switch off from people after working with them in healthy ways?
Yeah, I think it can be. Can everyone hear me? I've got earphones in.
Yeah.
So I found years ago when I first started, and obviously it wasn't with EFT, it was just in psychology, I would come home and I'd lie awake, particularly if I had suicidal clients and things, and it was pretty intense. I'm just going to take these out, actually. It's a bit easier. I found it took a little while. I was quite a lot younger then, and it took a little while to sort of find my boundaries. But a lot of what you've talked about is what I would try and do, where I would try and sort of energetically detach and let it go. And what I often also found just a neat little trick was I lived about half an hour from where I worked. So I would use the car ride to shed work, so that when I walked in, that was my sacred, safe space to be at home, and it wasn't a workspace. It's a little bit harder now. I work from home. So I think that's a bit harder because people, it's sort of right in their homes. But I was going to actually share that I had a really interesting thing happen to me this week that touched on all the things we've just talked about. So I'd been seeing a young girl, and obviously when you're seeing adolescents, you're dealing with parents. And this girl came to me with anxiety. We dealt with a lot of stuff. I'd seen a real shift in the way that she was processing her emotion and the way she was sort of thinking about things. And I felt like she was doing really, really well. So I sort of, after a few sessions, she indicated to me that she was feeling all right. I spoke to the parents about that. They were fine with that. Anyway, then a couple of days later, I got an email from the mum saying she's really distressed and she's escalated. And I was like, that's okay. I'll see her again. That's okay. That's normal. And I sort of reassured the parents that, look, the process is such that even if you feel like, or she's describing that it hasn't felt like it's worked, and it turned out she'd fibbed to me a little bit about how good she'd felt. I said she'll be benefiting. Some of the shifts I saw, they were a really good response to EFT. And anyway, and then I had an email 2 days ago where they said, actually, we're going to proceed with seeing a GP and getting this mental health plan that's existing in Australia, where that gives you reduced, like, a financial reduction in accessing psychologists and things like that. And they're like, oh, you know, our daughter feels like she needs more than just the tapping. So we're going to do this, this, and this. And I just had that moment where I was sitting at home going, they don't understand it. Oh my gosh. And I was just feeling so frustrated because I was like, over here in Australia, and it's probably like cognitive behavioural therapy and really working cognitively with someone seen as the gold standard. People don't really understand a lot of body-based work, I've found. And so the idea that it's not working, and probably it's not working because she's not doing it at home. Well, it was working. It was working with me. But I think her experience of it not working at home is that she's not actually putting anything into practice that we're asking. So she's not doing the homework. And then the parents are like, oh, it's clearly not working. We're going to get someone else. But we'd still like to see you. So I've had a lot of my own stuff this week come up. And it's been really interesting how I've had to do a lot of, even just wanting to respond to an email, I've had to sit on it for 24 hours. Because I know that the first thing I would have written would have been that triggered response. And so I've had to sort of go, just sit on it for 24 hours, think about it. I rang a colleague, we chatted about it, took some deep breaths, did some energy work, and then responded. And my response, I think, was a bit more of a considered response. So, and I'm going to try and have a phone call with the mother next week and just to actually talk through. I don't think she really understands some of the process. But anyway, it was just really interesting when you touched on all of that. I felt like I'd had some of those boundaries and triggers that had all flooded in this week.
And that's probably like an insight into, like maybe it's a different, difficult kind of client to work with, maybe teenager or, you know, maybe they're not the parents, So maybe it's a difficult client to apply EFT onto. I'm not sure. You know.
Yeah, well, that's right. Exactly. And that's what it was really interesting. One of the things I've had to work on myself just for the last couple of days is saying, do you know what? If it turns out that the family feels more comfortable exploring options to work with someone else, that's actually not about me. That's okay.
Yes.
And it's just letting that go.
Yeah.
But you take it a little bit personally, like you sort of, you know, you feel like they're judging you, and I've had to work on that a little bit. So it's been an interesting, I feel like all of these things, though, they feel really yucky and at the time, but then you kind of look back and you think, this is just more learning. This is helping me see something else, understanding a little bit more about my own process or the certain clients. So yeah, it's good learning.
Yeah, it's do they talk much about that at training in uni and stuff, about like after you've had like a day of working with clients in psychological settings, like do they say how much do you go home and start thinking about the cases you've been working on? Do they give you like information that you probably shouldn't think about your clients at home, or that it's not helpful, or, you know, do they give you kind of anything like that, how to deal with client loads?
Look, to be honest, it's sort of, my memory of that is no. And it's something you learn yourself. Okay. Having said that, though, like I did my doctorate 19, 20 years ago. Yeah. So what they are probably doing now could be quite different. You know, sort of mindfulness wasn't really a catchphrase back then. Energy work, I mean, people thought that was so woo-woo. And look, it's really tricky too. In psychology, a lot of it, like evidence is the gold standard. If it's not evidence-based and there's no science backing, you don't touch it. Like in Australia, EFT, if I use EFT with a client, I would technically, if I then was to sit in front of a psychology board, I would have to say that I've taught them a relaxation technique. So
it
it's
fits
not
under
actually,
relaxation.
yeah, it fits under that. It doesn't fit on it's not really recognized as its own technique. But there's plenty of us working really creatively, getting around all of that.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, Michael, maybe now they would give better strategies on helping people set those boundaries, but I felt like it was something you just had to discover for yourself. And that can be really tough, you know, if you've had a day where you're dealing with, I mean, I remember when I was training, I had a guy, he was in a drug and alcohol setting, and he got really cross with me about something. And he walked out and he said, right, I feel really crap. If I go and kill myself, it'll be your fault. And he walked out and slammed the door. Well, I was, you know, I was in my late 20s, really new to this work. And I went to the loo and I cried for half an hour. And then I tried to contact him and he wouldn't answer his phone. And I was so distressed.
Wow.
And then luckily I found a colleague and just sort of said, and that was sort of almost like, oh, was that, you know, Bob who said that? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, oh, he said it to all of us. And you kind of went, okay, I feel so much better. It was awful.
Wow. Yeah.
But yeah, so I think there's all the things you suggested, the things I would do now, and I think they're really helpful.
Oh, good.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, like, you know, having a shower after session, you know, after a day as well, stuff like that, like water, da 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 da. But even if you're keep looping back into a client that you're working with, or even a conversation or whatever, you could tap on that. You kind of need to tap on that. You could go, oh, even though I keep thinking about this person, I'm really worried about them. You know, I'm worried I said the wrong thing, did the wrong thing. That's okay. All this anxiety, all this stress, I release and let go, release and let go. It's okay. You know, and then just tap on that and that'll calm you down. Yeah, so you can use tapping. One of the coolest things about tapping, which you guys might have noticed already, is that I'm tapping with the clients. So often I get blissed out in the sessions. When I was giving acupuncture, it was very like fiddly, and I'm trying to look at the needle, I'm trying to get the right spot. And I was kind of like working myself, kind of sometimes got worked up into like a stress. Everything okay? So at the end of the day, I'm like kind of like strung out. But during doing EFT, it's awesome because I actually feel quite good at the end of every session.
Yeah, Mike, I was just going to add to that. I did some other training for psychologists with some EFT, and they talked a lot about that, like the mirror neurons, and they talked about the borrowed benefits and how, particularly if you're helping a client tap on an issue that you really strongly relate to, that you'll actually get, you know, an equivalent benefit. So it's really cool that you kind of get your own therapy as you're doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I get it. I notice that all the time. And like when people are talking about their suffering, it's like there's a part of me sometimes that I find, yeah, I can totally relate. I'm like, I can feel it in me as well. So then, yeah, like we're both benefiting from doing the work and tapping on this. So that's one of the coolest things about EFT is that, yeah, you're getting treatment when you're helping other people get treatment at the same time. How about anybody else? Anyone else got anything to share or questions or even experiences? Yeah.
I was going to say, when Chrissy was talking, it reminded me of a client. who came in and loved everything about the session. Like, this wasn't EFT, but she loved absolutely everything. She's like, oh my word, that makes so much sense. Da, 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 da. Then I went home, and 2 days later I got an email going, I want my money back. And I was like,
Wow.
I get a sense you do this to every single practitioner.
Wow.
Yeah. So then I changed my policy to no
Ah,
refunds,
yeah. Oh, good.
because it was, yeah.
So was that the
It's
end of
just
the
really
relationship
fun.
with this person? You send them their money?
Yeah,
and you
she
heard
never
from them?
came back. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. There's always quirky people.
Yeah.
But but yeah, adding to the boundary thing, one of the things that I find really key is saying how they can contact me between sessions. Because
Yes.
otherwise nowadays it's like Messenger on Facebook and
Yeah.
WhatsApp and emails and you can't switch off.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. That's, you can write that up in that contract that you send, or yeah, in that welcome email is like you outline, you know, if you've got questions, contact me on this day, or you know, I don't work on this day. Da, 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 da. Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Can I share something?
Yeah, sure. Cynthia.
No, I just wanted to share the study case that I did when I first did the training. No, because I didn't have experience at all, like with any therapy. So Michael recommended to me to do a study case project for free. I mean, I offered this 6 sessions program to work with patients with, well, in this case was with patients going through a process of cancer treatment or illness, chronic illness or something like that. And that it really was really important for me. I mean, it really changed for good. And it was like, I mean, it gave me a lot of confidence. It gave me, I gained clients for that, for even do that. And I really recommend it to do something like that. I mean, if you ever have worked before with, I mean, with therapists or doing this, like the case study, offering a case study for free, would be amazing. I can even share the PDF I did to share with my relatives and my friends for to find people. And I actually got many patients, and I mean, for that case study, so I could practice a lot, and get a lot of confidence and set up everything like my website and the schedule thing. I mean, it really helped me to set up the whole thing.
Awesome. So you're saying some of these people became clients, paying clients later on as well.
And I got a client today, actually.
Oh, good.
Because I do massage. I am a massage therapist as well. So sometimes I use the massage therapy to talk with the people, and if I see that the person is interested, I offer them a free first session. So I had the first free session today, and she's gonna do the 6. I am still working with the more or less that plan I made for the case study. So I'm working with 6 sessions. So she's gonna start doing the whole program.
Great, awesome.
So that's why I asked you for the agreement, because I kind of, I haven't done that yet.
Sure. I'll send it. I'll write it down just so I
So
don't.
that'd be awesome. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it reminded me of the other thing that, okay, the first assumption is people are busy, so make it easy for them. Right? So that's the first assumption. Don't make them have to message you 1,000 times to get information. So people are busy. The second thing is people kind of want to be told what to do, is the second one. So they kind of want to be led through a process. So once there's that sort of initial contact, then you say, okay, this is the way it works. We've got 6 sessions. We do it once a week. So we've got a plan, and you deliver the plan. You tell them what's involved. And a lot of people, like even I love that. Like I want to be told sometimes what I need to do, because every day we're dealing with our lives. We're making decisions. We have to like run around making decisions all day long. And sometimes it's just nice to go to someone and then you trust them enough, and then they go, look, this is how you do it. Do this, do this, do this, do this. And I'm like, okay, awesome. It's like, like I could do yoga by myself, right? I've got all the training I need to do yoga by myself. But it sucks because I got to make decisions to myself about myself all the time, even in the yoga class. I'm like, all right, now I need to do this. Oh, I want to do that. But if I go to a yoga class, I just like drop my bag, I learn my mat, and I'm just like, just tell me what to do. Like, I don't want to think about it. It's so nice just to be led with someone who knows what the hell they're doing, right? Has a system, has a program. So that's another thing to consider. And we'll talk about this more next week, is once you've made that contact and you're developing a relationship, you tell them what is required, give them a program, and people will, most of the time, will love that. Yeah. Don't make people work. Try and work it out for themselves.
Michael, I've just got another little question to pose to anyone who wants to answer it. So obviously I come with a little bit of a psychologist background, and sometimes I've wondered if that's a little bit of a hindrance, because I've got a particular way of working with people. And I think EFT, the beauty of it is that it opens it up to, I'm quite used to diagnosing people, even though I don't particularly do that. I don't think it's very helpful, but in the back of your mind, when you're talking to people, you're doing a mental checklist of whether they fit the criteria for depression or anxiety, and you do a suicidal risk assessment, that sort of thing. So I'm interested to hear from others how they work with people. So, if people are coming in with anxiety and things like that, if you're not coming in with that framework, just to offer me some other ideas, and I think it might be helpful for others as well, but if anyone's got some suggestions, that would be really helpful.
Yeah. So anyone else want to, Jared, have a go at that one?
Yeah, so I mentioned it earlier, but I've been experimenting with group sessions on TikTok of all platforms, and the algorithms are amazing. First of all, like hundreds and thousands of people somehow join, and they're, we first start, we're just having fun. We're just like, hey, what do you guys have? And they'll stress, anxiety, all these various different things, and they'll comment. And if you want to throw yourself into the arena, it's a great way to do it. When people, you don't have to see people's faces. So it's like, you just see the number of how many people are in, which can kind of be intimidating, but you just push through. And someone else comments, they're like, oh, you have anxiety? Oh, I have anxiety too. Oh, maybe we can do this. Hey, let's do this together. It's beautiful. And so I just go into it, and we're just like, all right, let's give it a number, see if you can make it stronger. And I don't even really think. I just get in the flow and I just roll. Like, I'm not even thinking sometimes. Like, most of the times I'm not even thinking. I'm just rolling and vibing. And then people will comment their numbers, and they'll be like 10, tons of 10s. and then we'll roll through a round, and then we'll get to like fives, and people be like, wow, this is like miraculous. And then other people will see other people's comments and be like, whoa, you know, and some people will still be honest and be like, I'm still at an 8 or a 9. And we'll be like, okay, that's fine. Like, you might have brought up more of that emotion, so that's a good sign. And if you moved your number down, that's also a good sign. So these are all good signs, and kind of comfort them and continue to create that safe environment, you know, and then everybody feels safe together. It's wild. Like, and I'm like, hey guys, I'm not the magician here. You guys are doing this. Like, I'm just a facilitator. You know, I'm running you through this, but we're doing this together as a group. And then we'll get everybody, like, seriously, everyone will get down to like 0 to 4s. And they're just like, wow. And everybody's like, good job. And they like, I don't know, it's been wild. So yeah,
Wow,
I've kind of struggled to find one-on-ones. I'd be game to do a one-on-one with somebody, but so that's why I've done it. I just gone on TikTok and done it that way. But yeah, so it's fun to experiment with. Yeah.
Wow, it's a really interesting space, like kind of going into these like large online group spaces and working in that dimension. It's a whole kind of new, it's a whole new world.
Oh, and if I might add, after the lives, like, my inbox is full of people that
Wow.
want to do it. And so now I'm kind of like trying to craft that. And I'm not sure as a level 1 if I can do it with people I don't know, you know? So it's like, it's kind of a tricky middle ground. Like, I'm not sure like how to really reply yet. So yeah.
This is amazing. Like, that sets up, like, for anyone in the space, you could probably get a huge amount of leads coming into your, you know, you do free TikTok or free big group internet things. Then you invite them to contact you or something like that. And then, yeah, what do you do next? So what I would suggest at some point to set up for you, Jared, is to send them to a free chat, like a 30-minute call where they chat to you personally. But as they click through those to book in, they have to fill out some forms. You have to get some information from them first. And that helps filter people out as well, because if they don't fill in a form, you don't want to, you know, they're too flaky, you kind of don't want to work with them. You sort of need to filter some of them out. So just have a 30-minute chat, get them to fill in some forms. And then you want to be designing a program to offer these people that if their problem is in your wheelhouse, then you offer them that program. And that's what the 30-minute chat's about, to work out if they are the right person. So yeah, like, you've got to set that up, spend some time out in the background, working out the steps. Before you start chatting to people. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to hear what happens to you, Jared. And but yeah, you kind of need to work out who do you want to work with, right? You probably need to really work on that. What type of people, and then you can start narrowing it down a bit. Might be helpful. So
Yes, I hope that helped your question, Chrissy. I guess I'm like, don't have the background you have, so I'm just kind of willy-nilly, like, let's get it, like, kind of, you know. But it's, I don't know, sometimes it takes like deprogramming some things, even with my background in like doctors, and like, I've been to the hospital and I've, you know, gone through my own journey. So like, I think I had to do some deprogramming from that as well, to kind of disconnect so that I could give EFT like its full focus and like full advantage, or without, like, I don't know, some past things. But
Yeah.
you know, yeah. So anyway.
Yeah. Thanks, Jared. That was
yeah. Just quickly, yeah, with Chrissy's question is, so maybe I've got a little bit of that background. So, you know, general signs I'm looking for is like agitation. Can they hold focus? is kind of one of the things. Like if they're all fidgeting and like looking around, they can't focus on you and they're distracted all the time, that's a sign that I don't want to work with that person straight off the bat, because it's too kind of far gone. To be honest, it's kind of too far gone for me. Yeah, it's too hard, like, honestly. So that's one of the signs, like, can they hold focus? How sort of, yeah, picking up signs like that, you know, and how cognitive are they, and self-aware, how self-aware are they already? And I always ask them, what have you tried before? Like, and what's worked before and what doesn't work? So then I get an idea if they've been through the doctors, if they've been through psychologists, if they've, or if they're more, a bit more maybe hippie style, they're more like yogis, and so they speak more about that. So then it kind of gives me that background of like where they're coming from, and what languaging they're using. So that's kind of my sort of main signs, but I'm keen to hear anyone else. And the question, what's the question again, Chrissy, if we could put it into one sentence of, you know.
Yeah, I don't know what the question is, but I think if I can sort of state the dilemma is more around that first session. And so in psychology, we assess. But once you go down that assessment path, you feel as though then you, I think you're more likely, I'm mindful of what language I use, but you're more likely to set it up to be that the client thinks that by the end of that journey, they will have shifted away from whatever it is that they started with, which is exactly the aim. But I think the way that it's done a little bit in psychology is that by session 6 or whatever, they are really looking to have shifted. And not that that's a bad thing, but I wonder whether there's a different way that I can approach that initial session, so that I think maybe some of the things you've already suggested, bring a little bit of fun into it, but I just wondered whether anyone coming from a different background who's worked with clients might just have a fun, creative way of doing some of that first session work. And that would just be really helpful. So sorry, it's not really a very clear question.
It's okay. Does anyone want to have a go?
I feel like this is deep work, you know, like this is layer by layer by layer by layer, right? And so it's relentless sometimes. Like even in my own ego and my own journey, I can't believe the layers. It's wild, you know? And so it's like, this is actually like deep work. This is the deep healing. And so some of these things we're just like scratching the surface on. And sometimes, as Michael is taught, is like, some things go right away. And then some things are like, have so much energy that you release one layer and you release another. And then, you know, and it's like, it's not like taking a pill, which has its purpose for people, you know, whatever. But it's not like that quick fix. It's like, this is a journey of deep healing, you know, this is not and I think that's why Michael also mentioned of like not signing someone up for just a one-off, you know, because it's going to take multiple sessions to do this. And I think our brains are trained so much to want that quick fix, and want the results right away, which they can totally happen, but they also, for deeper things, might take quite a bit of time to let all of that energy go, you know. Like some things I've worked on personally have taken weeks and months, but with continuous work, I've been able to, like, when the energy's up, tap it out, and to get these events in my life to a point where I can look at it with not a lot of anything, not a lot of motion or anything. I just kind of smile at it, and I'm just like, yeah, that was all a part of the journey. So
Yeah. No, thank you. And look, I think that's all been really helpful, it was just because I think you're right. I think it's actually just sitting with people, and I think a big part of it is actually probably as our role as practitioners is helping educate people that we are a quick fix society. I think we're a little bit of a magic bullet society, or take a tablet and it'll all go away. And you're right, it's probably just about being really discerning about the client so that you know the people who are prepared to sort of stick out the journey and do the work.
Yeah, I think that's a huge part of it, is the type of character that you're engaged with. And once you, yeah, like, then they usually, like, there's a connection when you've like come across a client. You're like, okay, boom, like this is exactly what I've been working on. I've helped people with this issue. Like, it's really easy to communicate with these people, and then they lock in to you and they lock into the program, and then they're all in, kind of thing. And there's not like flakiness and all that sort of stuff, because that's been filtered out. So
Yeah.
it's a huge part of it, is, yeah, what kind of person do I like working with? And that's what you're looking for every time you make contact, is like, does this, because they're assessing you, but you're assessing them. And I think a lot of the old model is kind of like like a psychologist or whatever, or a healer will take on anybody. It's kind of, maybe, I don't know if that's still accurate, but it's like, I'll go to a healer and they can deal with all my issues, right? Because that's their job. But it's not true. I don't think that's a good way of looking at it. It's like the healer has to assess you, and you have to assess the healer before you make a commitment to each other. That has to happen. Yeah. Thanks, Michael. Yeah. Yeah, if anyone needs to go, I totally understand. You need to switch off, that's cool. So yeah, I think if you come at it like that as well, it's kind of like an abundance mindset. I think that comes in as well, is that there's plenty of people in your field that you can help, and help really well. And you don't want to be a scarcity mindset where you'll take in people that you don't want to work with just because you're not busy or you need clients or whatever. Then you end up taking in clients you don't want to work with, or they make your life difficult and stuff like that, and it becomes a strain. So I think part of that is, yeah, an abundance mindset. Like, if you come across someone that doesn't fit, or seems too difficult, or doesn't match your ideal client, like, you've got no hesitation to refer. You're like, no, it's like, I often say, look, I don't specialize in that area. Like, it's not the area that I work in, but I would suggest you do this, and I sort of send them off. And I think people really like that as well, because you're not trying to sell anything. You're like, look, I can't help you with that issue. Boom, send them on. Yeah, so I don't know if that's helpful, but it took me years to work out. I used to just treat anyone and everything. And it's like reinventing the wheel with every person. It's a lot of work. But once you narrow it down into a specific space, you're doing the very similar thing, and the same issues on the same different people, but the same issues, very common. So you've already done this like 10 times. And so the way you deliver is even more effective, and the results are more powerful because you're so good at nailing this specific issue on this type of person. It makes your life so much better, and it makes their results better. So that's a huge part of it. Yeah.
Hi, I have a question.
Yes. Hi, Miriam.
So during the 30-minute session, do you like pretty much do like a little sample, like more of a like quick 5-minute tap in with them after you kind of get a little bit through what they're looking for to improve or heal, basically?
Yeah, great question. So what I've found is, personally, I don't have time, like there's not enough time in 30 minutes to do a mini session. But that's why I've got content on the internet of tapping, so that they've already tried it, or they've already done a sample in their own time. And usually that has now, like, they're coming back, right? So now they know what I do. I don't have to try and prove anything anymore. So now the conversation is, what's your problem? And I'm like, yeah, that's the area I work in. I can help you. This is the program. This is how I work. Are you in? That's the whole conversation. But if they don't know, if they haven't seen my videos, if they've come in a different way, like I'm a totally new contact, cold contact they call it. So it's a cold contact. I would, if they've never done EFT or tapping, I would probably try to put a 5-10 minute tap in there, but I'm pushing it. Like I don't want to, because it's making me work a lot. I'm trying to do all this stuff plus give them a 10-minute session, and then sell them a program on a call on the first meet. It's too much generally. So a better contact would be like they see your work. They go to a workshop that you've done in the community for free. So they go to your workshop. You guys, they experience some tapping, or they see a video or whatever it is, and then you're on the call. And so the call is really, what is your problem? How long have you had it? Tell me more about it. Explain why it sucks. So that's what the call's about. So in that 30 minutes, no, I don't tap with them anymore. It's too much work. It's too much going on. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah. It's like, sometimes I refer, like, look at another business model, like get out of the healing space and go to like a lawyer or an accountant or a restaurant or something like that, right? Get out of the space and go, okay, if I called an accountant, would he do a 10-minute jam tax return on me for free? Like in the call? No way, right? Right. But he would advise, like or he or she, sorry, they would advise. They'd be like, look, I work in that space. I can help you with it. This is the program. This is how much it costs. Are you in? It's exactly the same. Right. If you go to a restaurant, maybe they'll give you samples, but that's pretty rare, right? You go there, you sit down, you order the food, you pay for it. So maybe that's not the best example, but you know, how much do you give away for free? Stuff like that. How much time do you put in?
I love the "Are you in?" because it kind of like makes it special. I think it kind of gets the client stoked about it. Like, are you in? Not too much, but you know what I mean, to a point where they're kind of excited to do it, and it like creates that. I like that though. I'm gonna write that down for sure. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's like,
I think it's also a selling question because pretty much you dropped everything, and it's like, what's your intention here? Do you want to like move forward, or do you want to just like, forget about it or cancel?
exactly. And they feel like they're in charge because you're not pushing them. You're like, look, this is how it works. I can do it. I know I'm awesome. You know EFT works because you've already tried it. So shall we just do it? Do you want to do it? Let's go. Like, it's your call. And there's a great question. It's like, it's almost like, I don't need, it's kind of a sales question. It's like, look, this is about you, right? I'm trying to, like, it's your call. It's your decision. Do you want to move forward? Like, I don't need you. I don't need this client. I don't need this to be signed up. This is about your decision. Do you want to move forward with this process? Stuff like that.
It's funny
really,
because I'm also like a flexologist. Like I do one-on-one assisted stretching, and the company I used to work for, we do like pop-ups like close to like local gyms or like smoothie bars, and we give like free 15-minute stretch. But most of the time, the majority of those folks, like they just get a free stretch and then walk away.
yeah.
So it's really like, I would say probably like 1 out of 10 or 2 out of 10 that we end up signing up, because the majority they feel a little bit more like intimidated by it and they expect themselves to be like super flexible. So yeah, I think definitely that model would apply on that one too.
Yeah.
That's why I do it myself now, because I no longer work with that company and pretty much offer like 75-minute and talk to them about the benefits. Of course, like you don't expect yourself to be like 100% flexible on the get-go. Like it's going to take a while, just like anything else. And then I either ask them like, do you want to sign up for this session or book it or not? And then of course either they book it or they just say, no, thank you.
Yeah.
And that's fine, because you cannot know exactly people that value that practice and people that don't probably value it, or they're not ready for such commitment.
Yeah. So so I think from this call this week, just to summarize some of the big things is, start practicing find some people to work on in the Facebook forum. So you can just post up, I'm in the UK looking for a tapping buddy on Wednesdays or Thursdays. Anyone want to do it? Boom, done. You'll likely get someone respond. And so have that, start finding people to work on. If you can, like, start setting up some kind of booking system or calendar system where if you get people interested, get them to book in on an online system so it's all automated. Don't do this stupid texting back and forth. It's such a waste of time and energy. Get out of that practice. So set up automated systems. And then start experimenting with this idea that I shared with you today, whether you're aware of it or not, that you are your own authority in the way that you feel. You're not a victim to how everyone else is feeling around you or the environment. You're not a victim. You're not. It's a complete switch. Like, you're either a victim or you're empowered, right? You get to choose which line you go down, right? And this is part of that process, that I am responsible for how I feel 100% of the time. And if I feel upset because of someone else, it's because I did something to myself. It's like, just, if you can just own that, I just think it saves so much time. And like all this like practices out there of like setting up shields and doing this and chanting a million times and dancing around in a circle to protect yourself. I just think all that can be obliterated if you just own it, own your space, and just know that that's the way it is. And then take the time to practice coherence, do the qigong, like that stuff. And it's done. It's done. Like, maybe I'm lazy and that's why I choose that path, because I don't want to sit there and think and visualize all this stuff. I just want to be done. So yeah, try not to play victim that someone else is doing stuff to you. Right? And that helps a lot. And I think that's kind of it, right? Boundaries, practicing, and try and avoid your family. That was the key. Probably avoid your family. Yeah, it's too hard. It's too tricky.
That's a hard one. I have a question. So when you start working with potential clients, or I would say mostly cases for the assessment that we will be sending out to you for the certification, do you require a specific amount of like sessions with them? Like, should you just tap with them for like 10, 15 minutes or 30 or an hour? What would you suggest?
Yeah, so I'd say it'd be a full session. So anywhere, like an hour to an hour and a half, I'd consider a full session. And you can do, maybe 2 or 3 with the same person. That's okay. You can write that up in your notes as well. But of course, make variations. So like don't do 1 or 2 people 5 sessions each time. So you've only got 2 people, but you know, you can do a few people a couple of times, but make sure you get 5, 6 different people that you're working on.
And then you have to basically tackle different subjects or issues they're pretty much trying to work on.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah, so again, the first session, as you'll probably work out, like the first session is really about building the trust in the process. So don't expect, don't go in too hard, or don't go for the big traumas and the 10 out of 10s. Don't go there. Just if they want to go there, just go, oh, whatever. If they want to go there, it's like, okay, what if we, what else? You could say like, okay, look, I'm interested in that, but what else is going on? Is there something else maybe at work that's troubling you? Or just take, it's a bit too much to tackle the bull head on straight away. So just try and sidestep the bull and go for something a little less. And you can even say to them, look, you know, we don't really have enough time in this one session to deal with that. But, you know, if we continue, we can look at that further. But for today, let's just get used to let's just get used to this technique. Let's just get used to this process. And let's focus on something a little bit different, something like that. Just anything to get out of the way of the big one, if it's too big. And of course, you can always lead up, like at the end of that session with someone, you can say, look, we can book in again if you're interested to follow up, and then let me know. And then you can follow up somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, Michael, that one of the things I've found quite useful for that is as they're sort of mentioning things, I'm getting them to do their SUD rating, like their rating out of 10. So then you can kind of look at it. And I then maybe pick the, sorry, the neighbour's using a mower or something, but I might pick the 6 or 7 out of 10.
You choose off the list.
And then you kind of choose, you can kind of gently guide them.
Yes.
And say, yeah. So that's another little trick of doing it that I found quite useful.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Can you, during that session, ask them to, of course, after you assess like what's like their rating, whether they're below the 5 or probably close to 10, can you like do the same round of tap again on that same subject until you like neutralize it pretty much?
Yes, if you've got time, definitely go back over it. Maybe just mix up the words a little bit to see if you've missed something, or just experiment with something. Yeah, just go back over it. But if you've been on the one subject, like I kind of mentioned earlier, like after like 40 minutes of tapping on the one subject, the brain still sometimes like goes into meltdown and you don't even know what you're talking about anymore. So if that's the case, just switch to body sensation. That's usually where I go. If the brain starts melting, I go, okay, well, how's the body feeling now? Is there any tightness? And then I go, okay, then let's tap on the body. And then I go back to the issue and see. You just need a break from it because you've melted your brain. Yeah.
Oh, so with that being said, I think I probably experienced that. There was a time I was literally like going for an hour and a half tapping through your videos and another person on YouTube, and I felt like so drained.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I just don't want to tap anymore. I want to chill right now. So that's pretty much possible. Okay, that makes sense. Thanks.
It's like I think the brain gets kind of overloaded or something and just sort of melts. Usually I can't go for more than an hour and a half. I think it's probably max before someone melts completely. And yeah, just break it up. So if you see someone melting, just jump to another subject, then jump back. the brain just needs a break. This makes sense. Cool. So I might wrap it up. Thank you for staying with me the extra time. And yeah, thanks for your patience and showing up. If you've got any questions, of course, feel free to reach out. The Facebook forum is a place. If you don't mind sharing it with other people, you can post a question there. That's a good place. But if you want more privacy, you can just message me personally. Yeah, and start practicing on other people. Just keep tapping, and everything will be sweet. So yeah, thanks everyone. I'll speak to you soon. See you next week. Next week we'll do more businessy stuff as well. Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.